Hello, it's Scott Manley here. This is a video I wish I didn't have to make, but unfortunately it's it's the story that's running through my head the whole time and it's sort of getting in the way of everything else. And it's unfortunate, but I feel I need to talk about it because, well, I do a lot of post-accident discussions and dissections when it comes to rockets. Well, there was a pretty awful plane crash at my local airfield. The pilot died, and not only that, I was the closest person to the incident. I ran there in seconds, and even then, there was nothing I could do. And that kind of has a way of changing your perception of the world and making you spend a lot of time considering your choices and decisions that you made during those split seconds. So I understand that a lot of you have not signed up for this kind of thing. And I totally understand if you don't want to tune in. Maybe there's some memories you have. Maybe you don't want to hear stuff about aviation. Maybe you're here for rockets. But I feel that I need to talk about this so I can get back to talking about rockets and spaceflight and stuff like that. So yes, Saturday I had booked a plane. My friend had just said the previous night, hey, when are we going flying? So hey, got the plane. We went up, we flew around the bay, took some cool photos, and then we flew out to Colombia, which is a little town in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. It's basically like a museum town, an old gold rush place, and you can get stagecoach rides and stuff like that. That's all very cool. Coming back, because it's like 100 miles away, because we spent time there, we were coming back around 3:30. And my local airfield, Nosfield, it sits next to a mountain, and the prevailing winds will flow over the mountain and swirl around it and give very complicated turbulent winds. The runway is sort of famous for people practicing landing there with dubious winds. And so as we were coming in, you start to get the weather from some distance out, and the weather in the first report we get is like 8 knots across the runway, and I'm like, great. And then it says gusting 19 knots, and I'm like, damn, I can't land in that, right? The aircraft on paper has a maximum crosswind of 12 knots, but over the next, I just keep tuning in, and the weather is literally changing like every minute. While the official website updates like every 30 minutes, the winds were changing every minute. It was like 12, it was like 14, 19, and then it was at one point, it was variable again, gusting 19. So, there's a bit of negotiation because there's a skydive plane and I want to make room for them. But it turns out there's like 4 planes in a sequence and we land one after the other. I'm coming in, and my biggest concern and final is that I think I've got it under control. There's a bit of turbulence from the rough air. And what happens is my passenger has his feet on the pedals and I'm like swearing at him, like, get your feet off the pedal. Get down. And I have a video of this, and I can see that the windsock is like fully extended, but I land fine. There's a bit of shimmying as we flow out of the air, turbulent air behind the hangars. But yeah, I land just fine, and then as I'm turning around and taxiing back, the windsock is hanging limp. So that just gives you an idea that the winds at the field were going from at least 15 down to 0 over like minutes. So we had some pretty gusty experience. Another thing that I can see in that video is another plane, which is the one that was going to end up crashing. So I roll out to the hangar, we're getting set up, and as I shut down the engine, step out of the plane, there was a bang and there's a fireball at the end of the row of hangars. And so I'm running up to it, and there's this plane, which is actually totally recognizable as a plane. It's, wings are sticking out, the tail is sticking out of the hangar, and it is heavily on fire already in those seconds that I get up. And I get right up to it, I'm touching the wing, I'm trying to reach inside the hangar because it's embedded, to try and get to the door, and I'm burning all the hair off my arm, and there's just too much fire. And so yeah, at that point I'm like calling 911. It's basically, that plane can carry like 100 gallons of fuel, and the hangar itself had a Cessna 310, I think, which can carry, depending on the model, 100 to 200 gallons of fuel. So there's a lot of combustibles in there, and that fire just grew incredibly quickly. By the time I got off the phone with the fire department, like 2 minutes later, the tail, which had been sitting nicely in the air, had like bent down and onto the ground. And I actually, the next thing I thought I should do is maybe get some video of this, because I guess I think in terms of video, but I actually thought that, maybe the investigators would be able to get some clues, or at least I wanted to document the disposition of the vehicle, so that, we might understand something. And I don't know, but what that showed, and I'm not going to share this video, by the way, because there is somebody, perishing in there. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to share that video. That has been sent to the NTSB. But yeah, the aluminium structure in like 3 minutes just is disintegrating. The tail just falls down onto the ground. The wings fall onto the ground. And of course, like at that point, I know the fire department's coming. I have to run away and put my plane back in its hangar, because the fire department is going to need to come around. So anyway, like, what happens? I put my plane away. By the time I'm done, the fire department are there and they are taking control of everything. Police are there. We get police helicopters in, and I start checking in with them, because it's like I'm a witness. So, but before then, I run up my like row of hangars and I check to see that there's nobody actually in them, because hey, if you've got one hangar burning, maybe it starts to propagate. After all, you've got a bunch of planes with fuel in them. Close up my stuff to make sure that there's not going to be getting in the way of anything, and then make a report. I check in with the person that's in command at the scene, and they to see if there's anyone that needs to talk to me. And sure enough, I talk to a representative of the coroner's office, who's like compiling information. And, they give me their card. I tell them all the stuff, and then I give them the card, send some photos over to them, because there's a bunch of things that I have which are actually relevant if you are, say, the coroner, right? And I presumed that they would coordinate with the NTSB, because the NTSB had someone assigned, and I even made a comment to that effect on Twitter. And the next day I get a phone call saying, "Hi, we saw your note on Twitter that you were at the accident." "Oh, you got this from the coroner's office?" "No, we just found you on Twitter." It's like, okay, well, there you go. If you are a witness to a crash, you should probably go to the NTSB website and use their thing, rather than relying on local authorities to let them know. But yeah, I had a relatively short discussion, because what I saw was literally the last second or so of this aircraft skipping between two rows of hangars. I was looking up a row of hangars. There was another pilot who had landed just before them, and he was taxiing back, and he saw the whole thing. And if you listen to the ATC recording, he's the guy that's talking over the CTAF, the air traffic radio, saying somebody needs to call the emergency services, while I'm trying to get in close and see if there's anything I can do. So anyway, yeah, he provides the bulk of the report. I think I've sent over like a timeline with, because I had a camera on the plane, and I was able to see like where the other aircraft was when it was taxiing, and whether it was in the run-up area. So, so we knew that there was enough time for the pilot to, say, be prepping his plane, rather than just rolling onto the runway and gung-hoing it there, because that does happen. It doesn't look like it happened in this case, but this is an active investigation, so I should probably shut up. So yeah, let's just now actually go back and see what we can tell about this thing. So this aircraft was an Aero Commander 200. So this is based on, it's actually originally built by a company called Myers. And if you listen to the radio, the pilot announces like it's a Myers 200 taking off runway 31. And so this is a retractable gear, piston engine. I think this particular version has like a turbocharged 300 and something horsepower engine. So it is one of the more powerful ones. It's interesting because it's built with like a tubular metal alloy frame, and then the aluminium skin is hung off of this. So it makes it very, very strong, and that's probably why it entered into the hangar and was looking, structurally good. But so presumably at some point, as the pilot is trying to take off down the runway, it makes a bit of a left turn. It doesn't really get airborne. It runs into the space between the runway and the taxiway. It runs up and down, gets a little bit airborne, but ends up, going left into the hangars. Now, the winds were coming from the left, but the aircraft has been pushed, has turned to the left. Now, if you're not a pilot, you might wonder, if the winds are coming from the left, surely it would go to the right. If the winds are pushing you to the right, surely you go off the right side of the runway. But if you are sitting on the runway in an aircraft, your wheels are acting as a pivot point, and you have a tail out here, so you will weather vane to the left when you have strong winds. Aircraft also, when they are running their engines, they will have a left turning tendency, so you need a lot of right rudder to correct this. And I suspect that they hit a gust of wind at just the wrong moment. It might have lifted them upwards, it might have twisted them, and when they touch down, that starts carrying them out of control. What I do see is that it wasn't going particularly fast. It was going about 56 knots. That was below the stall speed. It never got up, it never got into ground effect, and it ploughed into the side of the hangar. And unfortunately, yeah, the spilling of the fuel was what doomed everything. Now, a lot of people have messaged me saying that, since this is a traumatic experience, it's natural for human experience to start replaying this and thinking through it. And of course, I'm no different. I am always someone that rethinks even the least traumatic experiences. What could I do better? And so, of course, I'm thinking, is there a way that I could have saved the day? And sure, if I had firefighting gear to hand, that would have been very helpful. But even then, it was a very, very big fire very, very quickly. I was wearing a t-shirt. It was incredibly hot inside the plane because we just landed and it was like a sun beating down kind of day. So t-shirt, I had no protective gear. I burned, all my hair off my arm trying to reach in there. The hangar had basically the fuel was leaking onto the floor and flaring up. And I didn't dare step inside there because I was going to just be overwhelmed by that instantly. That way I couldn't get in close to the aircraft. I think, maybe one thing that I could have maybe tried was grabbing the tailplane and pulling it out, because that was sticking outside. But, it's a 3,000-pound aircraft. It would have taken more than me to actually move that. And even then, maybe the landing gear had collapsed. But that might have made the difference, because instead of being a burning plane sitting in a hangar with another burning plane, it would have been a burning plane sitting outside. And that might have changed the outcome from this. But you know what? I didn't think about that at the time. It's very hard to think of the optimal things. What I thought was, there's no way I can safely get to this. The best bet is to start calling emergency services. And so I was the first person on the phone. I was giving them the details. 2 minutes later, off the phone, and as I said, I snap a few pictures, and then I hear somebody over next to me telling me that it's their relative in the plane, and I'm like, oh. So the best I can do at that point is look at them and say, I tried everything. And truthfully, I tried one or two things, and none of those was even remotely adequate for the situation that I was facing. Now, another thing that I keep on asking myself is, should I keep flying planes? After all, it seems to be quite a dangerous thing. My instructor actually got in touch with me the next morning, and I really made a point right then and there of saying, get me, this first lesson we can, because the next time I wanted to go flying after that, well, I wanted to have someone in the right seat that would know what was going on and be very good. And sure, I need to get some more lessons. He's been out of town for a month. I was out of town. So I'm stale on those controls, and you never know what else might come up. The other thing I asked myself is, should I even have tried to land at the field, given that we heard some crazy winds changing stuff? And truth is, I look back, I compiled the sort of weather readings that I was seeing, and while they were changing every minute, there were plenty of cases where the weather was totally fine and within range. And I just need to keep in mind that when you're coming in for a landing, really what you're thinking is, do I go around, right? A landing is an aborted go around, I guess. No, a landing is where you decide not to go around. That if you start with the idea that if this isn't working out, you should be you're skipping out of this and trying again. And I think that is a philosophy. When I started landing, planes originally, I had the wrong idea in head, and now I come to it and I treat every landing as something that I could abort at any point and still feel cool. And that's served me well. I haven't crashed a plane yet. Having said that, sort of unrelated, 2 planes that I have flown out of Noss Field have crashed. There was a Cessna 172, which the flight school had, and I flew in it once. I get 15 minutes of flight time in it, and then a month or so later, somebody crashed it. And then I flew in an RV-12, and that was fine. And last year, somebody crashed that. And in fact, one of the owners of that plane now owns the plane that I have. In fact, he was really a sort of force in making this acquisition happen. Boy, really hope that I'm making the right decision here. Yeah, I mean, like this plane that we've bought, I haven't taken my wife flying in it because we've been trying to get a parachute system for the aircraft, and while we ordered it back in January, we only got the rocket in June, and then they sent the wrong canopy, the wrong parachute. So I'm still waiting to get this, which means I haven't been able to fly the plane with my wife. I've taken other people that are clearly expendable, but if me and my wife go out, that means the kids get all the money, and you know that college age kids are really good at knowing how to spend money. So anyway, yeah, finally, I really want to make it clear. My heart goes out to the family, friends, everyone that knew the victim. I wish that things had turned out differently. I tried, but dumb luck put me in an impossible situation. Moving forwards, I guess I'm gonna try flying and hope everything works out tomorrow. I'm going to try and make another video because, I really don't want to be stuck in this. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get some sleep tonight because it's getting kind of hard. But yeah, there'll be something coming soon from me. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.
Traffic, Skydive 3, exiting 3-1 and Alpha, wind seem about maybe 8 right quartering, headwind Nuss.
Nuss traffic, lights 4595 Delta Yankee, turning right base, runway 31 Nuss. I'm concerned about the winds here.
.500.
Field is kind of famous for its crosswind.
Traffic, Command 217, pop on turn in or downwind. I'll follow in to a pop up for right traffic 31 knots.
Nuss traffic, 5905 Delta Yankee, final runway 31 Nuss.
Element Knots traffic.
Get up, yeah,
base,
sorry.
Papa, right base, runway 31. There's traffic, my 217, Papa, downwind for right 31, number 3 knots.
Okay, we're losing this.
Dodge traffic, white traffic base at 28, Papa, turning final runway 31.
Nuss traffic, 5905 Delta Yankee, clear runway 31 Nuss.
Thank you. How'd that feel?
Felt good once you got your foot off the pedals.
Sorry. Oh boy.
That's the one time where you really need the pedals.
Good lord, I was tensing up and... Sorry about that.
Look at this guy. Look at how much bank he's putting in.
Traffic 17 Papa, turning right base for 31 knots.
I'm good at the crosswind point, but even then, oh look, you see, it's like almost disappeared. That windsock is just like playing tricky buggers with us.